Hi, everybody. It's me, Genevieve. I wanted to come in today and do something I've never done before and share with you all what I think are going to be the predictions for 2026 handcrafted trends. I have done multiple times here on my channel something called the Threaded Trends Workshop. It's where I share a little bit of my background in ethical fashion and so forth, and help you figure out how do you find the trends for your brand and your business within the handcrafted community. But I thought this year, as I was doing my own research, that I would do something a little different and kind of put, so to say, my money where my mouth is and try to predict the trends that are going to happen here within our handcrafted community. So without further ado, I want to just share that with you and share my trend forecast, what I think is going to happen within different types of silhouettes, what I think is going to happen in apparel, quilting world, bag world, all of the things that we share here on the Thunderbird Handcrafted channel and also within my own business. So I would love if you're joining us today, whether you're someone who's watched me since I started this channel or you're new here, you're just finding me. I hope you will subscribe, like, and share this with your handcrafted friends in your community. I think one of the things I learned working in the fashion industry, both in design and marketing, is for some reason we like to gatekeep these things. We think that they're secrets, but what I want to tell you is that they're not, and I would encourage you to share it because no matter what, your perception of what I share today is going to be creatively different than your friend or maybe what you think are your competitors. So please like, share, set your alerts for future videos here. I'm hoping to do more of this type of content leaning into the new year. And let's start talking about the handcrafted trends for 2026. All right, everybody, let's talk handcrafted trends for 2026. Now, I'm going to be reading off of notes. I am from the analog generation. I'm an Xennial, which is that generation between Gen X and millennials. So I still love my analog notes. So I'm going to be looking over in this direction occasionally because there is a lot to go over here. So I just wanted to come in and say that to you from the start because I always get so many comments about the fact that I move my hands when I talk and so forth. If I'm not your vibe, I'm not your vibe. And that's completely fine with me. But I just want to let you know, when I look over in this direction, it's because I have notes that I want to share with you. Because one of the things that I do is I do research on what are the upcoming trends and color and silhouettes, what's coming from the fashion show runways, and how that's going to filter its way down to us in the handmade marketplace. And I start doing that research 3, 4, 5 months in advance before the end of the new year. So if you would like more information on how to go about doing that for yourself, please go and watch replay of my Threaded Trends workshop. I do offer a workbook over on my website as well. So feel free to go take advantage of that. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of set the premise for this discussion, because that's really what it is. I want you to be a part of sharing in the comments, just kind of where you're at with this, what you think about what I'm sharing. If you think I'm spot on, if you don't think I'm right, I'm being vulnerable out here and sharing this with you. So this is the thing. I really believe that you can be a part of this handcrafted renaissance. All right. This isn't only about color and fashion. Okay. I really believe that there is a societal shift happening. And the reason I say that, I'll share kind of a rule in fashion where I know that it's a fact and a truth, and it's kind of something that fashion designers live by. But I also think we're in such a period of external chaos and external noise, that I really see what's happening within our handcrafted community is a renaissance of sort. I'm going to kind of take you back a little bit. If you think back to 2020, when the world shut down, correct? It's so hard to kind of like, since we lived through that period, to think about just what we all decided to do with ourselves, right? And so many of us decided we were going to go and learn a handcraft, whether it be knitting or sewing, whether it be within those realms of quilting, embroidery, whatever it was, thrifting, woodworking, so many, so much return to handcrafts because we had the time, right? Because we had the time. And for those of us who stayed with those crafts, we are now moving into that 5-6 year mark of learning in those realms. And what I believe is happening is that so many of us are now like, boy, I've honed that skill of bag making. I really would love to quilt. I already know how to sew. How hard could it be? Right. And, or, ooh, I saw, someone combined resin with wood, and now I'm good with my woodworking or my laser, and I want to add resin. There's so much happening right now within the handcrafted realm. 3D printing, all these things are really a byproduct of all of us being shut in our homes and saying, I'm going to spend my time this way. So I really believe we're seeing a handcrafted renaissance where we're going to really dive into some of these things. So let me just talk about that. We want to return also. I think some of us were so anxious to get out of that feeling of being shut in and being closed off and so forth, that we wanted to get back to fast life. We wanted to get back to doing our kids' sports and going to church and doing all of the things that we regularly were doing. And we got back to the fast-paced life slowly, but I would say I don't know, I feel that. I feel like we really jumped right back into, let's get things moving, right? But I think we're seeing this transition to, you know what? We really learned some lessons about slow living. We learned some lessons about being bombarded with noise, right? And so I do think we're moving back to this place of wanting to be in a slow living type of environment, trying to blend that into the world we live in. Connection, we have a loneliness pandemic. Has anyone heard this? And like really figuring out, how do we build connection yet still protect ourselves mentally, physically, and also just creative growth, like I was saying, transitioning into these other things that we want to learn. So I really believe we're moving into, in 2026, more of this type of handcrafted renaissance. And I really believe we're going to see that in what is trending, from colors to home decor to what we're working on in our crafts. So I would love to know, like as you're diving into this and thinking about this, do you see that too? Do you see a societal shift where you're at? A little about me. So I have at the bottom here, going across the page. If you don't know me, if you're new here, again, my name is Genevieve. I'm the owner of Thunderbird Handcrafted, with a whole lot of help behind me, from my family and many friends. My past life was in ethical fashion, both in marketing and design. I worked in that industry for about 10 years. Prior to that, I was in business and sales. I've always ran some type of creative business, whether it be from, stamping to working with direct sales to setting up at markets and so forth. That's always been a part of my life for as long as I can remember, over 30 years. And both my parents were artists. My dad is a stained glass artist. My mother was a potter. I really just feel like creativity is in my blood. And so a couple years ago, as I dived more into fiber arts, I began sharing my hand dyed fiber journey that led into print fabric. And now we have this business that really kind of combines all of that. I would love if you went down below here. This is our website. This provides you, as long as you sign up for our emails or go into our FAQ section, you'll be able to sign up for a free fabric sample pack. This is all of our different fabric bases that we print on, as well as hand dye. Go check that out. We are an eco-friendly US-based business focused on really looking and finding the textiles that maybe have been lost to our society as things have gotten like bigger and more global. But also all of our prints are eco-friendly, printed right here. So go grab one of these free fabric sample packs. All you got to do is sign up for our email list, pay your shipping, and we send one of these out to you. The other thing I really encourage you to get, if this is something you want to continue as far as into 2026, of like how are you using the colors of the year to curate what you're making, I also highly suggest grabbing one of our color wheels, which in my Threaded Trends workshop, I share with how to use. So those are the two, that's just kind of my two little prompts, encouraging you to go over to our website and take advantage of those two things. If there's anything that I would say you should have from us, that would be it. So go grab those two things. So let's chat about the foundation of what I see in 2026 for the handcrafted community. How about we do that? Let's chat about that. So what is a handcrafted renaissance? Fancy words. Again, like I said, I feel like we're in this uncertain society where there's uncertain societal pressures. We don't know from one day to the next kind of how we should act, how we should be. Granted, we have kind of a rootedness, I would hope. But at the same time, even in our own like handcrafted community, I think there is some pressure there. And the thing I know about pressure is, if you know anything about coal, is as it's pressured and pushed and squeezed and kind of there's this kind of anxiety around it. The beauty that comes from that is a diamond. And so I really feel we're in that period where we've been pressured. We're going to continue to feel that. I don't think chaos in this world is changing anytime soon. But I do think that through that, our creativity is going to really bring this plethora of very different beauty within arts and crafts. So I do think you're going to see it have an effect, that kind of pressure have an effect on just the amount of handcrafts and creativity that we're going to see. I also think that there in another societal feeling, so to say, from everyone is kind of this desire for the past with hope for the future. And so I think that's really important to think about, is just how we all are feeling that, to have hope for now, right? To have hope for the future. And so I really feel like what you're going to see inspirational wise is this kind of nostalgia around 50s, 60s, 70s design with the excess and boldness. And I say excess for a reason, with excess and boldness of like the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. I think we're really going to see, a lot of things going on with in just those decades that we're going to kind of be revisiting in design. The world feels really digital, feels really fast, feels lonely. So I think the way that makers, how we're responding to that is going to have an even bigger play into 2026. So connection, community, creativity, retreats, okay? Retreats. I think retreats, expos, even in an economic climate where we're uncertain, I think you're going to see more makers have retreats and expos. More people go to those things. I think you're going to see more one-on-one. I think you're going to see friends who pull a friend into the group, right? And I think you're also going to see this in color. I think you're going to see a very balanced, but at times feeling unbalanced play in color, where it's muted tones to bright, bold tones. And so that's another reason I'm sharing. I think we are in this like handcrafted renaissance. So if you could share with me in the comments, this is something I'm kind of interested in knowing. If you could share with me in the comments, what trend you love from any of these decades, whether it be 60s through 90s, you could add 50s and early 2000s there, but is there a specific trend that you're just like, oh, I would love for this to come back? And share that in the comments with me, because I think it would be interesting to see if it actually does come back for us in 2026. All right. So that's kind of like an overview, kind of what I'm seeing, what I'm thinking. Again, remember to like, share, comment. Again, this is really something new that I'm deciding to do. Okay, let's talk about the 20-year rule. So if you have been in any of my Threaded Trends workshops, I do talk about the 20-year rule a little bit, but I wanted to just take a moment to chat about that here. The 20-year rule in fashion is that whatever year you're in currently, you want to go back 20 years and see what those trends were. Most likely, a majority of those trends are going to be returning. Now, 20 years ago, it was 2001. And I think one of the things that we forget that happened was Y2K. So towards this year, I've definitely seen a reinsurgent of some like Y2K type of trends. The hoarding, there's a little bit of that going on. There's also kind of this feeling of excitement that it didn't happen, right? Because 2001, we realized, oh, the world didn't end. I think we're seeing a lot of Y2K type of societal things going on. So keep that in mind when you're looking at what the trends are for 2026 and like how that's falling into our handmade world, because I do believe it has a huge influence on what is being designed and what is putting out there. So again, the 20-year rule is 20 years of the time period you're in. What were those fashion trends? And so we're going into 2026, and so 2001 is our 20-year rule. Now, I do think that there is a deeper nostalgia for this next year than just 2001. So I also think you can go back 91, 81, 71, 61. I think you can go back almost 50 years and pull from those, because I feel like, again, it's kind of a renaissance when it comes to fashion and design. And so a lot of designers are pulling from the beginnings of decades, which is actually fairly cool. Here we go. We are going to talk about color mood and forecasting this for 2026. So one of the ways that I do this, and again, old school. I'm such an exennial. 1981, everybody. That's the year I was born. All right. So magazines. And this can be hard. This can be hard to find anymore. But I have found some places that we can still grab these. Target still has it at their fronts. Maybe you have a Target that carries more. Barnes & Noble for sure. Barnes & Noble, please keep your magazine racks. Also, odd stores like Tractor Supply. Like, think about like kind of the aesthetic of your audience, and maybe go to some of the stores that maybe they would frequent, and just look at what magazines they have at the front. The magazines, and particularly home decor magazines, I find, and I've said this many times, it's always so weird to me that we want to look like our houses. So if you're thinking about fashion, also sometimes if you're doing research earlier in the year before any of the fashion weeks, look for home decor, and they're kind of preempting some of the things we're going to see in fashion the following year. So magazines for sure. The other areas that I use Pinterest. Y'all, Pinterest is not dead. I'm going to share with you some Pinterest in a little bit. Again, like I said, Fashion Week, Pantone, which is like the overall fashion color guides that we use. YouTube right here. I use YouTube as well. There's many people who are following high fashion trends, following things. And so I look for videos discussing that throughout the year to kind of get myself ready to kind of make plans for the new year and so forth. Because as you all know, I am dyeing fabric all summer that has to last me and be on trend throughout the following year. And I don't know. It's very, I try to pinpoint it, but it's always a guessing game. But a little bit of research goes a long way. So here's what I'm seeing so far in like kind of the color and the mood forecast. So if you know anything about last year's color of the year, from Pantone, it was Mocha Mousse. Wish there was a lot of people very upset about that because it wasn't like a bright, bold color. It was a neutral and it was brown. Oh my gosh. And also, there were other colors that were given out by some other places. So some of them that matter to us. So Kona always comes out with a color of the year. Their color of the year last year was Nocturne, which is like a deep purple. Bear, again, home decor. They had their color of the year was Rumors, which is kind of like a burgundy wine color. And then Etsy, they had Serenity, which was like this limey, almost like a limey mint, but it was very light, very light. So those were some of the 2025 colors of the year that overall, the one I saw from the very start is more on that purple end. I saw that one almost immediately. And I think that's because I'm in the handcrafted community and Kona is a handcrafted space, right? Etsy also, I did see a lot of mints, the whole Taylor Swift movement. I did see a lot of that. And I feel like just now, even though, seasonally makes sense. I'm making this in the fall of 2025. Mocha Mousse, like as the summer went on, I started seeing more browns, more beiges, as well as that burgundy color, that wine color coming in. So those were the colors of the year. I'm seeing more and more of those now, and that makes sense as a handcrafted community to see some of those bigger fashion designer areas to fall into more of our area later on in the season. So here are some of the predictions. I'm going to share this with you, and we're going to go and I'm going to show you some. I'm going to share my screen and share some of the spaces that I use to look this up, primarily within color. Okay, so let's share. All right, so we're going to dive into Pantone. We're going to dive into the two areas on Pantone that I really focus on as fall starts coming around, which is New York Fashion Week and London Fashion Week. All right, so here I have my screen share. We are looking at the Pantone Color Trend Report for New York Fashion Week. This was published in September. And what we're going to see, the first thing I really want you to see. All right, so they're saying top 10 standout colors. But I also want you to look at the textures that we're seeing. So we're seeing this is like billowy, ruffly in the center here in the purple. We're seeing V's, some very distinct symmetrical things. We're seeing texture, which I think has a huge play, and I'm going to talk more about that. It then goes into, here are those top 10 colors, okay, from New York Fashion Week. And then also it goes into the seasonalist shades. So these are the shades that they're saying that no matter what for spring, summer, and I would also say leaning into fall, your neutrals are going to be in this range. And what I want you to a lot of times what I really pay attention to, because it's always some type of darker color, also some type of white, also some type of blue, because we wear denims, we wear blacks, and we wear whites. But what I also feel you should pay attention to is those last two colors in the neutrals area that they are saying is neutral, because green isn't a neutral. So pay attention to those, because if they're calling it a neutral, it'll be used as a neutral, and we're going to see it more. So that's New York. London Fashion Week. So now we're going to go into London. London Fashion Week happens also in that September timeframe. They're only a few weeks apart. And immediately I want you to see that quilted is like one of the first things we're seeing. Okay. So this kind of like big quilted, you can even say like in this upholstery version, it's like a big checker. So just pay attention to that. More billowy, almost feathery type of look. Okay, same way here, billowy, feathery, quilted. And this is London's top 10 Pantone colors. Okay, and then we're gonna also look down here at our neutral, and what do we see again? We're seeing some of that mocha, right, from this year, and a green. So these are the colors that I definitely think all of the places that are going to be giving us all the places that are going to be giving us a color of the year. Those Pantone colors, the 10 from New York and the 10 from London, and then those neutrals that they provide us, there's going to be something from those colorways. That's who these places are going to pick. They're going to take something from those and create what they're going to share, because Pantone, if you think about it, is the one that's up here. All the fashion designers, everybody is watching that, and then it just staggers on down the way. All right. So I do have a link. I'll put it in the details for you all. A link that has the Pantone colors since 2000. Okay. And what that will offer you is just kind of can help you to kind of predict what colors out of these 10s are potentially going to be seen more in fashion. They try not to repeat themselves very often. So just I have that link as well as these links as well for you. All right. So this article as well, I have linked, and this is the color trends that are being recommended by Nordrum. This is another place where I go and I always look for their trend report. Nordstrom, if you know them. So they have here a little bit about, it's a more home decor oriented, but I always like to look at these. So here's what they're saying. They're pulling what all of the home decor places have already released for 2026. They've already released what they think are going to be the colors. Here we have kind of this mocha thing going on, you know, the sage thing going on, the mahogany / brown pinks. So these are the colors that we're going to be seeing in home decor. I also think we will be seeing them in our fashion decor as well. So this link is also in there for you. So what do you think? What do you think is going to be the Pantone color of the year for 2026? I would love to hear your thoughts. It could be out of those colors that I just shared, or it could be totally off the wall. But I will be sharing at the end of this video, I will be sharing what I think are going to be the handcrafted colors for 2026. So that is our color and mood forecasts for 2026. So you're probably wondering, Jenna, what colors are you predicting for 2026? Well, I'll be sharing what I think the handcrafted colors of the year. I'll have two that I'm going to be sharing that I think are going to be the colors we're going to see most in our handcrafted world. But I really do think that we're going to see a blend, again, like I said, of what has been, and then a brightening of that. So if you look at those Pantone colors that I just shared with you, I feel like we have such an element of, you know, two polar opposites, kind of that pressure that I was talking about. So I do think the Pantone color of the year It's probably going to be another muted color, or they're going to shock us and they're going to pick a bold color. But I feel like we've had a progression for at least 2-3 years of going away from the brights. So it's really hit or miss with them. I think we could get another muted color to just keep the tonal down, because there was a lot of that, or we're going to go into something more richer and more bolder. So we shall see. Our next piece here is really about the textures we saw. Like we were just looking at Pinterest, at a Pantone, and seeing how there was like this ruffle effect. There were like really clear textures happening, folds, quilting, really this is where Fashion Week becomes the big influence. All right. And I want you to think about this as in a maker makes it their own. And so here's things I saw. Feathers, or kind of like this feathered revival thing. So there were a lot of feathers at Fashion Week. Gucci, Valentino, Dior, Stella McCartney, all of them were using feathers. And so a form of, whether it was tasseling, whether it was fringing, whether it was applique feathers, where it was print feathers, all of them were using feathers, which is like crazy, because if you didn't know, I have a feather print series of designs that I drew myself way back using my original hand-dyed fabric colors. I was thinking about retiring them for 2026. Now I'm thinking I probably should keep them. You also have probably seen this just in the handcrafted world of kind of like this, like we're in love with geese, and we're in love with chickens, and we're in love with ducks. Like there is this feathered thing. I don't know where this comes from in like societal, but I do also it could potentially kind of be like more leaning towards this like slow living situation, right? But feathers, adding them as charms, using like a denim to like fringe or fray and like create a feather look. So feathers, you're going to see feathers. And I love, as I'm sharing these with you, to let me know in the comments what you think about them, because definitely feathers. And I also think it might even be the texture, the feel of it, because definitely this is where I'm leaning more into like the textures. We want to feel something. In amongst chaos, we want to feel something that isn't chaotic. It might be cozy. We want textures. And so that leans into like, what types of bases are we going to see? I think we're going to see more linens. I think we're going to see more things like corduroy and different wales. I think we're going to see ribbed come back to knits, denims in different forms, and adding embellishments to denim. So again, I think we really want to feel things, and that's where this feathered kind of trend that was really amongst all of the main designers. I think the reason we're seeing that is because it's a feeling thing. It's an aesthetic. There's also this feeling of not being polished. That polished perfection takes away from being present in something. And I think that's also a societal thing. So when I say that, what I saw on the runway was like open bags, like bags that are just like hanging open, or that they were holding them with one strap. Kind of like really like V-necks, shears. I think your TPU is going to come back, right? Because there's kind of this like feel that we want to be able to be seen, and not really necessarily care if if it looks a little chaotic. I would like to know with this, are you craving more like tangible experiences with others? Like, do you have a greater feeling of wanting connection within the handcrafted community? I think it is something that I've felt over the past year and a half. I think it only has been fed that I want more of it after attending a few like small retreats, like the Lynn's Handmade retreat, or going and vending myself as a maker, and teaching at like the salty sew something, and looking forward to doing things like QuiltCon. Let me know in the comments if this is something that you're craving, and that if you feel like some of what you're saving your money for, or some of what you plan on doing in 2026 is more of those kind of handcrafted connection events, or looking for those. So that's just a little bit on the textile revival. I think it's really important to remember some of those images I showed you in Pantone. Really look at the texture of what you're seeing coming into 2026, because I think texture, feeling, like think of it in the literal sense. We want to feel something other than the chaos, and that's going to portray itself also in our fashion design. All right, design predictions. So we're going to talk about what I think we're going to see in design. And this, this again, I really want you to think about what I said in the very beginning, kind of like that coal turning into a diamond. Minimalist, maximalist ism. I think we're going to see things like oversized, over pocketed, all right, to tiny wallets, all right, tiny clutches. I think there's going to be such a very visual crevice of bold to simplistic, all right. And that is really because we're living in this time where there's extremes. There's definitely polar opposites of things. So I think design, we're going to see a lot of that in what is being created. So from pattern designs to quilt designs, to types of mediums that we're using in our craft, like bringing in things that maybe we normally wouldn't bring in. I think also we're going to see some nostalgic elements there that also are on these spectrums. So I think you're going to see 80s color blocking. I think we're already seeing that. If you've seen some apparel patterns for that are just coming out around this time, I think we're already seeing a lot of that color blocking. I think we're going to see the 90s preppy look come back. I also think we're going to see like 50s and 60s inspiring within print design. 70s, I think we're going to see those elements from that time period show up in a new way. So I don't think we're only dealing with one decade anymore. I think when it comes to accessories, I think we're going to see chunky. If you look at anything regarding Fashion Week for this fall, there was just a lot of costume jewelry going on, a lot of big, chunky. So I think where we were with like the small charms, charm bracelet type of environment, I think you're going to see in 2026 that we kind of go to the extreme of that. I think you're going to see chunky charms. I think you're going to see more of like this kind of symmetrical, bold type of look, polka dots, those sorts of things. And I think we're going to bring bling back even more so. I think we're going to really go hard on the gold. I know there's some people out there who are like, I don't use any gold hardware. I think hardware is going to really go to like a statement type of look. Again, think about costume jewelry. And then we're going to combine that with simpler and fun times. So also think about that when it comes to design silhouettes, which I am going to share as we move into Pinterest here. I am going to share a board that is that I'll share the link for, that is really just some bag silhouette design that I think we're going to see. So here is where I want to talk a little bit about the 20-year rule. But if you could share one fashion or home decor trend that you've seen lately that shocked you that it's returning, I would love to know that in the comments. Share that with me. I'd love to hear what trend is like you were like, what, that's coming back. I'd love to know what those are for you guys. Okay, next we're going to talk about the last little piece of what I think is going to be is a part of this handmade renaissance that we're seeing, and handcrafted renaissance. I think handmade, like made new and made old school. Again, polar things. I think we're seeing this celebration of reusing. Okay, so thrifting. We're thinking not scarcity, but sentiment. Okay, and so whether it's taking something thrifted and turning it new, or taking something new and adding to it to make it feel handmade, I definitely feel like that is going to be a huge part of 2026. So think about patchwork totes, think Pyrex design, um, because it's like a collection that had a different design. I feel like that's also a huge piece of what we're seeing. Costume jewelry trend, again, like I said, tea towel dresses. So taking something that you're finding embroidery that you're converting into something else, or making something and adding embroidery to it. Um, I also think that we're focusing on like a heartbeat of a story. And like that's the tangible piece, like this piece of where we're showing handmade has an important role to play when society feels like there's chaos and pressure and so forth. That human interaction, this transition in skills, the desire to learn, finding new people to follow, right? So I really feel like when it comes to this handcrafted renaissance, this is one of the big areas that kind of broadens our horizons to be inspired. So I would love to know in the comments, where do you see yourself transitioning in your handcrafts? What skill are you excited to hone more or learn new in 2026? Because I do really feel like this is an area that many of us are going to see. I also think if you've been here since 2020 and you're kind of feeling, if you do run a handmade business, you're feeling kind of stagnant, you're feeling like nobody's paying attention, now is your time to not give up. Now is your time to really settle in. You know your skill you've honed over the past 5, 6 years, really be visual with that, and then dive into something new and be sharing that you're diving into something new. So that's what I have to say about handmade and new old school. So now we are going to be heading into kind of the exciting part. Me sharing some micro trends from my Pinterest boards that you are welcome to follow. And then the final wrap up, which is my Thunderbird handcrafted trend forecast for 2026, which includes the colors that I think are the handcrafted colors of the 2026 year. Micro trends, and I'm going to share with you some Pinterest boards. Micro trends are really the trends that you see popping up each month. They're the things that we create hashtags for, but they're kind of these trends amongst the bigger overall of that minimalist maximus type of trend that I feel we're going to see. So I'm going to share some micro trends that kind of stuck out to me, and I'd love to hear what you think about them. But all of these links for these Pinterest boards are found in the details of this video for you. Let's dive into the micro trend for color blocking. All right. So color blocking is obviously, it's such an 80s trend. All right. It's kind of crazy how 80s it is. So what you're going to see a lot of, it's also very 70s, like it kind of falls in the same, this could even be 60s. These really clear blocking of color. Checks aren't going away. Checks and stripes. But I do believe you're going to see thicker, bolder, and then the vice versa, thinner. So you're seeing, again, the extremes of both ends. All right. So I think you're going to see a lot of color blocking. You're going to see, again, this preppy look, kind of more of like boho romance look. But I created this board and I'll be adding to it throughout the year, because I do believe one of the micro trends is most definitely this color blocking look. Like this here is so like 90s peasant look. So rick rack, like this here is definitely, using different elements to create color blocking. Here's our fringe tassel situation, feather situation. Again, another like preppy look. So color blocking is most definitely an area that we're going to see so much more of. All right, here is the feathered season micro trend. Again, I do think there's going to be an area of our world and also regular fashion that continues to play off of this kind of feathered friend world, garden world. Again, here we have rickrack almost again, this very large gingham or plaid design, texturized. Like here we have more corduroy, some burlap type of texture, linens, the fringe look. Here again, more fringe look. Some like the tassels, feathers, different ways to embellish denim. You know, you have this is, I really think this is where this stems from. This Taylor Swift jackets that she wore in the Eras tour, I think really are a propeller of this trend. So this is another board that I have with just some of these design inspirations. Again, these boards aren't meant to be like, oh, I'm going to create this exact same bag or I'm going to create this exact same look. It's to inspire you of how would you use it in your own craft and your own design. So this is the feathered season micro trend that I think we're going to see. All right, elevated boho is another area. So remember when I was talking about like this feeling of being polished yet present? I think this is where some of that comes into. We're seeing, you know, like this kind of flouncy, romantic look in a lot of ways, whether it be using embroidery, you know, which takes you back as far as like culture and society, but also kind of this fringed look that's like macrame or doily look of the 70s. Um, a lot of like, here's here more of like the tassel play, patchwork, quilted like jackets. I think jackets are going to be really big, like forms of cover up, whether it be vests, any type of shawls in women's fashion, any type of added design elements. So like here where she's adding some like ribbons to a pants. Those are definitely going to have a play. A lot more of this kind of curated boho. I wouldn't say boho chic. I feel like it is more of like this elevated, using fabrics that are a little bit more elevated in the design of a boho look. So that's that micro trend. Here's the dark romance. So it's like grunge dark romance. It's not fully like, so where kind of the romantic look is, the runway had a whole lot of lingerie-esque looks that were added with kind of this grungy, you know, more 90s grunge look. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that. This is also where kind of that costume jewelry, chunky vibe, where we saw a lot more of those elements. So like any type of embellishments on leather, on denim, shears, again, like I said, get your TPU back out, but very specific in your TPU, because even I saw like TPU used in shoes, used in bags. Again, where it wasn't there before, it kind of had its season and now it's coming back, but in a very sophisticated way, where it is literally just like the clear or a color in clear or a jelly like matte color. Not all of our different designs, maybe some checks, maybe some polka dots, maybe a plaid, but we're not going crazy. Like here the skirt has elements inside of it. So I do think shears, this kind of costume jewelry, lacy, our plaids are still there. Again, color blocking is showing up in those too. Pleats are another big thing that I've been noticing as well, not just in this micro trend, but also in several of the others. But I would love, so those are some micro trends. I think I got them all. Which micro trend is your vibe? Do you have one that you were kind of like, ooh, I like this one. I could see myself creating and being inspired from that micro trend. Again, all of the Pinterest board links are in the details of this video for you guys, so that you can go and see them. And like I said, I do add to them throughout the year. So feel free to follow me over on Pinterest, and you can dive into those. Now, the last Pinterest board I want to share with you guys is my bag silhouette Pinterest board, which is the trends I think we're going to see in bags for 2026. So let me bring that up for you guys. All right. So this is a lot, but we're gonna dive into it. One of the big things I saw a lot of is bags that don't technically close, or have a weird handling. Again, this is high fashion. You figure out how to do it for you, but I do think we're going to see our pattern designers kind of play with this a bit. So, like this bag just kind of has a handle with this like chunky hardware that like makes it close. This bag has a cinch, which I think we are going to see a lot of cinch bags. One-handled situations. You can tell that these bags just have a lobster claw to close them, but they're not really closed. So I think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see a lot of our pinch or kiss closed bags. I think you're going to see kiss closures on pockets of bigger bags, and I think you're going to see more clutches with that, because it is a big design element that I saw a lot of. So you can see a lot of those here. Again, I think we're still going to see accessorizing of bags, whether it be kind of this like look that's like costume jewelry, or we're looking at bigger, chunkier hardware. A lot of bags that don't have a typical like closed up zipper close. I think we're gonna be seeing the scallop. So last year I shared with you all that I think scallops were going to be in, and we saw that in our bag silhouettes. I think we're going to see bags that you could do color blocking. So like here, this bag, you could do color blocking. I had a few others in here that I was like, oh, that would be a great, like here's a color blocked little tote. So again, extreme tote bag, but small. I think you're going to see more ways to do like more bags that offer color blocking or paneling. Here's kind of our dark romance look. It's like corseting, more of that grunge look, like really, hardware details. I think you're going to see more aspects of using scarves as accessories. Again, like charms with charms. I think we're gonna see more of that. These kiss closures, fringe, definitely whatever you want to call fringe, feathering, tassels. We're going to see lots more of that. So this will continue to be on my Pinterest board throughout the year. Like I said here, kiss closure with pockets, oversized kiss closures, really big. Elementals, different types of mediums that we're using to create bags. I think we're going to see a whole lot more of that. So this is kind of just the bag board. So feel free to follow it and check it out. So, all right. So that's that. So now let's kind of do a wrap up. Let me get off of there. Let's talk about everything. Let's talk about everything. How's that sound? All right, the handcrafted fashion forecast kind of looks like this. This is kind of what we went over. All right, chaos plus creativity equals a renaissance. That's really where we're at. We dove deeper into colors, what to look for, what to focus on. Pantone, their summer, spring through Fashion Week, what their focus is, what colors they're being inspired by. And then we talked about this textile revival, our need to feel and connect as a driver for what we're doing in handmade. Okay. What's coming in design? We talked about that, the 20-year rule. Again, like I said, think about 2001, but then also think about the beginning of a new decade. Even though we're not in the beginning of a new decade, I do think that 2026, a lot of us want it to be the beginning of a new decade. We have that feeling around it. So think 91, 81, 71, 61. If you're going to do more research, that's where I'm diving into. That's where I would recommend you dive into as well. Transitions in handmade. So really the thrifting world is still a big thing, taking something old and turning it into something new, but also the turning something new into something handmade is really big. So that feeling of kind of bringing new life to something is definitely on the horizon. Also, the feeling of being connected. I think this is, if you've never been to a retreat or expo or any type of event with other crafters within your field, this is going to be the year that I would say I think you should probably do it. All of that being said, I have those Pinterest boards over there. Even if you're like, I don't even know where to go with all this information, Jenna, I have those Pinterest boards there for you so that you can go in and just peruse through them. If you're trying to feel inspired, maybe you're trying to find a pattern you want to do. Use those boards as a way to be inspired and to think about what you're creating in 2026. All right, drum roll, please. And there is a way for me to put a drum roll in here. So we're going to do we're going to do a drum roll. So I am now going to share my handcrafted colors of the year, my predictions of what they're going to be for 2026. And I tried to think about specifically what I thought was going to be the colors of the year within the handcrafted community, because I do think, fashion does all sorts of things, and we're going to see a lot of colors in a lot of places. Again, I really feel we're in these extremes, so the exact colors that I'm sharing, I don't think necessarily you're going to find them in that form all the time. And so I wanted to dive a little deeper with you guys when I shared my color predictions for 2026 and help you be inspired by the different tones and different reincarnations of the colors that I'm saying I think are part of 2026. So I am going to share my screen again with you all, and I'm going to be sharing a Pinterest board that I created that is specifically with what I think are the colors, the handcrafted colors for 2026. Ta-da! All right, so this is what I think. I think this is where we're at. I think we are going to be seeing this, what I'm calling like guava pink. I think that's how it's going to show up more than, say, the dusty or mauve or like a traditional pink or a rose. I think it's going to show up more as kind of this like guavy, kind of muted, bright, in pinks. So I'm not saying that this is going to be Pantone's color of the year. I think Pantone might go another route. But I do think that we are going to see more pinks. I think we're going to see more pinks. And I think we're going to see pinks on a variety of scales. So I think I want you to think about when we're thinking about this guava pink. All right. I want you to think about 90s and 80s bright pink. And as we go through this board together, you're going to see more. So like flamingo to tropical to neon. I think we're also going to see it more in like how it was used in the 60s and 70s. So like kind of a sorbet, peachy, blush, coral pink. And then I also think we're going to see it like more as in your 50s, and 80s. I think this also 80s, 90s. There was like this mauve dusty rose thing that happened too. So whether it's soda shop or your grandma's carpet, I think we're gonna also see pink. And what I'm saying is guava pink. I think we're gonna see it in all of its forms. All right. The other color that I think we're going to see a lot of is true sage. All right. I'm calling it true sage because I really do think we're going to see cozy, warm greens to deeper, even silvery, romantic tonal greens. I really want you to think about kind of the pairing of how guava and mocha mousse work with true sage. And this is where I will say I think I'm gonna maybe make a little prediction here. I think Pantone might go on the green end. We shall see. But this is the two colors that I really think we're going to see in 2026, primarily in the handcrafted community. So I made this board of different types of color palettes that are using those color families so that they could inspire you. So whether you are, looking at more of kind of this romantic, maybe bookish Jane Austen vibe, or you're looking at the 70s retro music festival vibe, or you're looking more at like high-end fashion vibe, I really feel this curation of that pink and green is what we're going to see a lot of, and it brings in, personally, in this color family, and this is why I think at least one of these colors might be one of the Pantone colors of the year, or Etsy's or Kona's color of the year, because I'm focusing more on handcrafts. The Pantone colors of the year for the past 3 years would all fall in this family. Our peach fuzz, our mocha mousse, our even our magenta galaxy that they did a couple years ago would fall in this. And then also, you can pull purples into this. You can pull blues into this. You can pull different families, reds, things like that, to pull some of those micro trends that I think we're going to see. So that's what this board is for. I'll probably be adding more color palettes to this throughout the year as well. So feel free to go and follow this board also. If you're looking to maybe follow this trend. So that is um, really where I see color. That's my forecast for the handcrafted colors of the year for 2026. Let me know what you think. What do you think of these? Would these be colors that you feel you would use? Let me know. Let me know in the comments if these are colors that you feel like, oh, I really like those colors. Are you excited about them? Let me know yes or no in the comments, if you're excited about them. All right, so that's a wrap. What I want to really express to you is that here at Thunderbird Handcrafted, this isn't just something I do one time of year. It's something that I share every month of the entire year. And so if you would like more of this information kind of on the micro level, maybe diving deeper into micro trends that I feel are specific to certain months, or you would just like more training around this, the place that you're going to find that is my Patreon. So I want to really encourage you to head over there and join my Patreon. Paid Patreon, get all sorts of benefits, including 1 hour early access to my hand dyed releases that are limited edition hand dyed items. We also are rebranding our Patreon, and it's going to have more of what I was sharing about, like that connection and also feeling behind it. So more of that is going to be shared over the next month or so. But I highly recommend that if you are not familiar with my Patreon, that you head over to Patreon and join us.